Bonjour mes amis, it's me, Sophia Beaumont, back again. I just wanted to give you guys a quick January-February reading wrap-up. I know we're about halfway through March now at this point, but I figured I would give you guys a quick update while I've got the chance. So in January and February I had a bit of a reading slump, and I only read 6 books in 2 months. I only read 2 in January, which was awful. January really kind of sucked. But the 2 that I did read were really fantastic. The first one that I finished was by one of my favorite authors. Her name is Kat Winters, and it is In the Shadow of Blackbirds. I have been going through all of her backlist books, and I absolutely love everything she writes. All of her books are, for the most part, set around World War I era, the late 19-teens, and the backdrop that she uses is the Spanish influenza epidemic. So this book is very strongly influenced by that, and it's a fantastic read. All of her books are super creepy, but just absolutely wonderful. This is a YA novel about a young woman who goes to live with her aunt in the middle of the outbreak after her father is arrested. And she's trying to keep her family history a secret from the people around her, but when she arrives in San Diego to live with her aunt, she discovers that the friend that she was hoping to spend time with there, he has gone away to war and no one has heard from him in months, and he's presumed dead. But then all of these really strange things start happening, and she starts to wonder if she's being haunted by this friend. So there's also a lot of other things going on. Like I said, there's the World War I backdrops. There's a lot of suspicion, especially about foreigners or people of foreign ancestry during that time period, and all of that plays into this story. I love all of her books, so this one is definitely 5 out of 5 stars. The second book that I finished in January was an audiobook, and it was Cress by Marissa Meyer, and I followed that up with my first book of February, which was Winter, and these are the last 2 books in the Lunar Chronicles. And I love this series. I didn't get on the bandwagon when the books were coming out. I kind of earmarked it, but I usually read series or really popular books after they have stopped being all hyped and popular. I love the backlist. I picked up these 2 books on audio from Overdrive. They both have a fantastic narrator. I love the woman who narrates these audiobooks. And I don't want to get too much into the details because, like I said, these are the 3rd and 4th books, the last 2 books in the series. But they're absolutely wonderful. If you have not picked up the Lunar Chronicles yet, then you really have to read them. I haven't read any of the short stories yet, and I just found out that there's a graphic novel following Aiko. So I really need to get my hands on that. I think that's going to be the next thing that I hunt down at the bookstore, is the graphic novel. I also give those 5 out of 5 stars as well, and I think Cress is probably my favorite book in the entire series. I adore Cress. The next 2 books that I read in February were also on audio. The first one was Sanctum by Madeline Roux. This is the 2nd book in the Asylum series, and it delves into possession and super creepy. It's actually a lot creepier than the Kat Winters books because it's a lot more psychological. It's not so much the scary stuff that happens to them as the scary stuff that's in their own heads. And that's one of the reasons why I love this series, is it's very dark, it's very creepy, really well written. I didn't really like Sanctum quite as much as Asylum, but I still thought it was really good, and I will be picking up the next book. But I have to give myself a little bit of a breather because, like I said, they're super creepy and I cannot marathon those books. The 3rd book I read was actually a business book. I like reading nonfiction that has to do with business and self-improvement and that sort of thing. And this one was 60 Seconds and You're Hired by Robin Ryan. And it was really good. It didn't have information really that I was looking for at the time. It just happened to be an audiobook on a subject that was available. But if I ever have to interview for another job again, I am definitely going to check that out, because if you're doing a lot of interviews, this book goes over a lot of the frequent questions that you receive and provides good answers. She gives you a lot of options where if, for example, you've been fired or if something bad happened at your last job. She gives you ways to help spin that and turn it into a positive that will help you get hired with a new company. And different ways, different techniques of modifying the way that you talk about your former job and the way you look at the things that have happened, and turn those negatives into positives so that you can then move up in your position in the world. And it also covers internal positions and interviewing for those, which was the main reason I was looking at this, just trying to find a better place with my own day job. So it's a really great book. I would definitely look into it. It's very short. I managed to listen to it in pretty much one sitting. It took me about 6 hours or less. But it's definitely really quick to listen to on audio, and I would highly recommend getting the paper copy though, just so you can take notes a little bit more easily. The last book that I read in February was this one. That is Eterna and Omega by Leanna Renee Hieber. Leanna is absolutely fantastic. She's been a mentor to me in writing, and so I always make a point of picking up all of her books. This one has been on my TBR shelf for way too long, but I knew that I needed to sit down and read it. And this one is absolutely fantastic. Eterna Omega is the second book in the series, so again, I can't go into too many details, but basically what you have is in the US, you have Mary Todd Lincoln, who lost her husband. He was assassinated, Abraham Lincoln, of course, and she's grieving and wants to find a way to either bring him back or to basically put a stopper on death. Meanwhile, at the same time, in England, you have Queen Victoria, who has recently lost her husband and is going through a similar issue. So both of these powerful women want to find a way to stop death and find immortality or bring back the people that they've lost. So they both create different units to research this. So in England, you've got the Eterna Commission, and in the US, you have Omega, or I believe that's it. I might have those flip-flopped. But you've got the Americans researching on their side, and the story really starts when the American research team just dies. There's this horrible accident and they all die. And then you find out, as it switches perspectives, that in England, their research team just went missing. They have no idea what happened to them. And the first book, it's the two individual teams researching and trying to figure out what has happened. And then in Eterna and Omega, they come together and start researching at the same time. So it's really great. It's got a wonderful cast of characters. There's a lot of really diverse characters. There's a Muslim woman. You've got people of different races in there. And it's just wonderful to see them all working together and trying to find the root of this magical issue, these demons that have suddenly started showing up. Because in Eterna and Omega, these missing scientists suddenly show up as corpses. But there's more to it than that. Like I said, I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but they are trying to figure out what has happened to these scientists and how they can keep this epidemic of evil from spreading through New York and London and eventually the entire world. So those are the books that I have finished reading. I'm currently reading 4 books, 2 of them on audio and 2 of them are hardbacks. The 2 I've got on audio are Silence for the Dead by Simone St. James. I just started this one the other day, and it is set in 1919 England. Most of her books are set in the early 1920s in England. And it's about this woman who is running from we don't really know what, but she's in hiding at an insane asylum in a remote part of England where she is posing as a nurse, and we'll see if she can get away with it. She doesn't really seem to know a whole lot about what's going on, but she doesn't know where else to go. So that one I'm really enjoying. I'm not very far into it. The other book that I'm listening to is another business book. It's called Blogging for Business because I'm trying to up my blogging game. Right now, I'm not very far into it. I've only listened to maybe 1 or 2 chapters, and it's on the very, very basics of blogging, like how to sign up for Blogger and what a WordPress blog is and that sort of thing. So I haven't really gotten into the meat of things yet. We'll see how it goes. It might be a little bit too basic for me, but we'll find out. The other two books that I am reading right now, this first one, I just started it the other night. I haven't had a whole lot of time to sit down and read it, but it is Imprudence by Gail Carriger. This is, again, the second book in a series. I'm reading a lot of serious books lately. This is Custard Protocol Book 2, which is her second, or actually no, it's her third series. This would be the sequel series to her Parasol Protectorate, and it's good so far. I'm only 19 pages in, so I haven't really got into the meat of the story yet, but I am enjoying it. I love Roux. She's very sarcastic. She's just like her mother in that way, and we'll see. So far, it's been pretty funny, but that's kind of a hallmark of Gail Carriger. The other book that I'm reading, I'm also not going to get into details on this because it's the second book in a series, and at this point, I think almost the entire planet has read these books, and that is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the illustrated edition. My roommate has been getting these books for me for Christmas, and I love her so much for doing this. She's been buying me the UK editions, which are fantastic. I love the UK edition. This is really great. I love the artwork. I've been kind of savoring this book and just reading it a little bit at a time, just because I'm enjoying it so much. But I really need to sit down and just finish it because I started this right after Christmas and I need to actually just finish it already. My TBR pile right now is kind of insane. I'm working on Project TBR for 2017, which is I want to read all of the books on my nightstand. And my nightstand is a small bookshelf, and it holds all of the books that I have purchased and not read yet. So I am trying to get through all of those books. I was originally hoping to get through them before we move in April. That's not going to happen. So I'm trying to get through them before we move, our big move, in April 2018. The next one on my list is this, Miss Buncle's book. It is by D.E. Stevenson, and it was recently on, I believe it's a Book Riot list of best classic books by women, I think, or best books by women in so many years. I don't remember exactly, but I found this at Half Price Books. It's set in the 1920s. I love the 1920s, so I snapped it up. And then the only other thing that I know I want to read this month is one book in French. I am trying to work on my French language skills, and I haven't decided which book I'm going to read just yet. I've got a manga series that I intentionally purchased in French to practice with, and then I've also got two classic textbooks from, I think, the 1940s or 50s. And one of them focuses mostly on grammar and construction, and the other one has a bunch of short stories in it. So I might read one of those. I haven't decided yet, but I would like to start working more on my French and read through all of those books at some point in 2017. So that's it on the TBR wrap-up update. I hope that you guys will go check out my blog. And also my Amazon author page. The Spider's Web is for sale right now in ebook and paperback. You can find a link down below. We will also be releasing the Night Wars collection, which is a collection of short stories written by myself and Missouri Dalton. That will be out on March 28th. Again, you can find links to all that information down below in the down bar. And I will see you guys in a couple of weeks.